Hey, welcome back to another video, folks. Join me and the boy on the sofa today. He's allowed up sometimes. He doesn't come up on his own. He does, to be fair, does only come up when he's invited, which is quite impressive, really. I was quite strict with him when he was younger to kind of instill some good manners and such like with him. But yeah, he's stuck with it, to be fair. He's a good boy. I put him in the videos. I must get more hits if he's in it. He's pretty cute, isn't he? Today's video is, if you can concentrate on me and not him, is going to be all about the Mountaineering and Climbing Instructor Award Assessment Week. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him over there because I can't concentrate if he's jumping around. As much as he's a good boy, as you can see, he can't sit still. He's an attention-seeking little monkey, and he just fidgets and fidgets and fidgets. He'll be all right, and he's stroking his tummy, and then he'll fidget around a bit. And as soon as you stop, look at that tail go. He loves it. His tail very rarely stops wagging, and he's like, "Give me some more attention, come on," and he'll start headbutting me or whatever. So get on your own side. Oi. There you go, good boy. So he's not bad, is he? So you have to remember with this one that I've only been through the assessment process myself once. And I don't work on MCI courses. You have to work at one of the national mountain centres to work on those and be suitably qualified and everything and experienced and all that as well. But I only work for myself, JB Mountain Skills, so that doesn't happen. But I am an official mentor through the Association of Mountaineering Instructors for the MCI scheme. So we've had a bit of extra CPD, continual professional development for that. So I am pretty aware of and up to date with what goes on in the assessment courses, and as part of being a mentor, I just ask a lot of questions as well. So when my mentees go through the scheme and through the assessment, I like milk all the information out of them as much as possible, as where they went, what they did, all these kind of things. I just have a lot of friends going through the scheme and just meeting general people out and about, so I ask loads of questions. So I like to think I'm pretty up to date with it all. Now, before I go any further, it should be said that it's well worth looking at the mountain training website. All the scheme information, the handbook, the syllabus points and everything is all on there in, virtually black and white, so you can just look at it and everything is listed. And that's from the prerequisites for registering on the course, for going on the assessment, after you've done the training, all the consolidation stuff. It's got all the syllabus points, so you can work your way through those and make sure you can do it all. So it really is a great source of information. Hand in hand with that is this book, and there's a link to this below in the description. It's the Rock Climbing Essential Skills and Techniques book. So it's not just for climbing instructors, but it does have stuff that's specific to you in there as well. And it covers the Mountaineering Instructor scheme, the RCI scheme, the climbing wall stuff as well. So it's a really good book, nice diagrams, easy to look at. And this is just a useful book, whether you're working through the qualifications or just, even if you're watching videos like mine and something doesn't quite make sense, you can sort of refer back to here. And it's just quite nice sometimes, isn't it, to have something tactile in your hand that you can look at. And the pictures will just be different from looking at your computer screen. So that's well worth getting that book, especially if you are working through the instructor scheme such as MCI. I wanted just to run through the assessment week. So by the time you get to assessment, you've done a 9-day training course, right, for the MCI, which is flipping ace, just like fully immersed in climbing and mountaineering stuff with some awesome people. And then you've done the consolidation period, and that's probably a minimum of 12 months, can be more, of course. And at that point, you're just working through all the stuff you've gone through on the training and refining stuff and just getting out and actually doing it. Obviously, before that, you've passed your ML as well, your mountain leader. You've done that in the past. You might have done your rock climbing instructor qualifications. It's not a prerequisite. You might have done your rock climbing development instructor. Again, not a prerequisite, but good stepping stones, right, towards the MCI. So you should have a load of experience before actually going to the MCI assessment. And that's great, because mountaineering and climbing instructors, well, you've just got to have shed loads of experience from at least all over the UK, and actually most people going through the scheme have done plenty of stuff abroad as well. The more the merrier as far as experience goes. It really is super important. You need to be super flexible. I'm going to tell you about the assessment week. The order of the days might change, and that might, if that's going to throw you, you're probably not at the level of being, comfortable in your environment and with all the techniques that you've got to do and everything. But in a work sense as well, you might have planned to go climbing that day with these clients, but the weather's rubbish, so scrambling is a backup option. But The next day you could be working an ML course, the next day an RCI course, the next day doing some rigging for a TV shoot, the next day working on a sea cliff. There's so many things you can do with it that you've just got to be really adaptable. Which is part of the fun. I absolutely love it, right? Just thinking on your feet all the time. You can come up with the best plan in the world, but if someone's on that route you want to do, okay, you want to do Lighthouse Surrey, well, there's someone on it, there's people waiting for it, well, let's go and do something else. You've only got an hour left in the day, not enough time for a full route, let's abseil in and do the top pitch of Northwest Passage, amazing E1. It's absolutely, it's a pleasure to be operating like that, I think. Now, the prerequisites, like I said, are on the mountain training website, so do have a look at that. Day one, again, all things being equal and weather allowing and stuff, of your MCI assessment is going to be a guiding day. So you'll be operating on VS terrain there. So an MCI doesn't have a grade remit. It's not like you're limited to VS or whatever. You can do whatever grade you want to do when you're out working. It's entirely up to you. You've got to make those own judgments. I'm not going to guide someone up an E7 because I don't climb E7. Will I be happy guiding on an E1? Yeah, absolutely I will. And on that assessment, right, the VS, you just need to be cruising that VS. You should be at a point where you're on the crux of the VS, chatting away to the assessor and another candidate that's on the course as well, talking away through it, thinking about maybe not placing a nut right on the crux, which is tricky, but just going a metre up, placing the bit of kit up there instead. Those are the kind of things we want to be thinking about, making sure you get to the belays, they're all like textbook perfect, nice and neat and simple and all that kind of thing. So to be operating at VS in that sense, you probably need a grade or two in hand. I'm not saying you definitely do, because I know people who don't climb any harder than VS but can absolutely waltz up it and do all the things you need to be doing. But for most of us, that means assessment having a grade or two in hand. So I was kind of climbing E1ish by the time I went to assessment some time ago, and now I climb a bit harder now. So yeah, at work I do climb harder stuff than VS fairly regularly, but that's up to the MCI in question. As I've said, you're with an assessor and another candidate that day, so you'll probably do a route yourself and then the other candidate will do a route yourself. You're probably only getting kind of 2 routes done that day. You probably have to manage an abseil as well as part of that, getting off the crag. So it's the steadiest day, to be honest, right? You shouldn't be going into that day worried about climbing VS. That's the most quantifiable bit, isn't it? Can I cruise VS or can I not cruise VS? If you can't cruise VS, you ain't quite ready for assessment. Go and do some more climbing. Well, that's pretty good, isn't it? Go and do more climbing. Ace, who needs an excuse for that? And that's the point really about MCI people. The good ones who cruise through it, they're pretty obsessed by climbing and mountaineering. It's what they do. It's not what they're doing to tick a logbook. It's what they do for fun. They're getting out here, there and everywhere and doing just loads of cool climbing. And the logbook then just isn't really a concern. It just looks after itself. Okay, so day one, you could go anywhere, local to wherever you're doing the assessment. So that's one of the national mountain centres. So for me, I'm going to talk about this in a North Wales sort of point of view, aren't I? Because that's where I live, that's where I did the assessment and stuff. So you're going to go with it to crags within relatively easy reach of there, depending on the weather and stuff. So you could be at Castle Helen at Gogarth, you could be at Tremadoc, you could be in the pass. I went to Dinnesmont. I think I did Lorraine Direct, which is a VS, and I think the other lad did Western something. I get muddled up between Western Slab and Western Rib, I think. But whatever he did, it was an HVS. And it was good, loved it. Managed the abseils off the top, job's a good one, day done, hopefully it went well. There is a chance that if you really mess that day up and you're just not really that safe on VS terrain, you might disappear and be asked to go home. That does happen, but it really is up to you just to go and get happy at climbing VS, and that's the steadiest day of the assessment, I reckon. Day 2, problem solving. Might hear it referred to as like the rescues day, but problem solving is like the proper term for it, because it's all sorts of problems, not just rescues. Could be really simple stuff like second can't undo their belay plate. Could be gnarly stuff like your second has fallen off on a traverse and they've hurt themselves and need picking up and taking onwards and upwards, or taking down, whatever. Quite a long one, that one. Again, you'll be with another candidate and an assessor. And when there's a problem, your assessor will usually take themselves out of the system, so you're just working with that one as a fellow assessee. All right. You'll be on VS terrain again though, so you'll go somewhere like Traumatic and be cruising around VSs, and then you'll get a little problem pinged at you and you'll have to sort that out. And your assessor will be looking for you to just make nice efficient progress towards like the end goal. Okay, you don't need to be super rapid, right? But what they're really looking for is for you not to be going, right, I need to do that, so going off this way and trying to solve your problem and go, that's not actually the way to do it, coming back, going down here somewhere and trying to solve it that way and go, that's not really the way to do it. I want to see just doof, 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 doof all the way, giving a bit of thought each time. It's not to say you can't make a little error here and there. Don't make big errors, don't unclip yourself and be off belay yourself. Don't obviously do that to your fellow assessee and that as well. So you've got to look after everyone and just make like efficient progress towards it all. You'll probably end up getting a couple of simple problems and a couple of tricky problems, something like that. Depends how tricky the big problems are. You might only do one massive one if it's a big one. It's not too bad a day, right? Because it's made up of loads of building blocks of solutions. So you can go and you can learn those in your consolidation period. The trickier bit is knowing what blocks you need and in what order to put them to solve the problem. So to give you an idea of one that's maybe a little bit outside of the box, imagine you've climbed up, you're belaying your mate up, right, on this assessment. They get hit by a rock, they've hurt their shoulder, they're conscious and everything, so you decide to go into a hoist to get them up. And then as you're hoisting, there's a bit of damage on the rope. So what you're going to do now, you've got to isolate that damage and keep on hoisting, probably set up a new hoist system. So that's where it's not just a simple hoist, there's another problem involved with it, and that's the kind of level that an MCI type person needs to be at. They need to be able to mix and match these solutions into a one big solution. Okay, so that gives you an idea. So climbing VS, assessor, another candidate, solving some problems, half a day each really, so a route each probably, something like that. Jobs are good, and day 2 done. On to day 3. What's day 3? Day 3, mountain day. Oh, it's a biggie, right? Scrambling and mountaineering. So many decisions and judgments to be made. You with an assessor and a candidate again, okay? Maybe a different assessor. You'll swap round during the week, so you'll see at least 2 different people. There's a lot of stuff going on this day, right? You might have to nav to the start of the route if the weather's bad. It might just be, oh, there it is, let's just walk to it. But on mine I had to get the map and compass out, and wasn't expecting to really, so it just added a little extra something to the day. And then you get to your route and you do what you need to do, and the judgments start straight away, because in scrambling mountaineering stuff, it's not like climbing where everything is a pitch and you're going to like a fairly set belay and everything. You've got to kind of make the judgments on where to belay. You've got to make judgments on how to belay. Do you just strong arm it? Do you move together and just strong arm it? Do you body belay? Do you direct belay? Do you build an actual belay with nuts and stuff like that? Do you pitch it? Do you climb up, leave your candidate and assessor on a ledge and then build a belay to bring them up when you haven't been belayed? Or do you pitch it properly and place gear and they belay you? Or do you just literally move together because it's a grassy bit of terrain and you've got to take some coils, drop some coils, take some more coils, drop some more coils? How many coils you got in your hand? Are you tripping them over? Have you locked them off or have you not locked them off? Did you get the gear back off the last belay because you left a couple of slings on something? How do the assessor and candidate fix themselves onto that ledge? Do they clip into a belay? Do they chuck their rope over a spike? Are they safe enough on that ledge without any belay because it's a monster ledge? But there's loads going on. Plus you're trying to get a bit of a move on, because that's what scrambling and mountaineering is, isn't it? It's like efficient movement through the mountains. It's not standing on ledges, shivering, getting bored, waiting for you to do your thing up there. You're in boots because you're scrambling, it could be a bit greasy and stuff. Don't forget to look after yourself, you're flipping important as well. If you need gear, place gear. There's just loads going on, isn't there? Plus you've got to find the route itself, actually on the mountain, because scrambling guides aren't quite as good as rock climbing guides in terms of the amount of information, right? It's a tricky day. I went into that day having ticked most of the scrambles in North Wales and loads of others around the UK, And alpine stuff as well. I'd done a fair bit of alpine stuff. And I worked flipping hard that day. I was knackered after it, like mentally and physically. There's a lot going on. It's hard to do it justice, really, me just chatting to the camera at how tricky it is, but it's interesting when you speak to most other MCI type people, and the majority agree that that's just a pretty gnarly day of working really flipping hard, because it draws on all your climbing experience, all your mountain experience, and like combines it all together. Climbing, there's kind of often less choices to be made. Scrambling, choices here, there and everywhere. Your other candidate will take over, like maybe halfway up through the route or something. Then you've got to go down a route as well. You're not just going to walk off and to get the map and compass out and do some nav down a grassy hillside. You're going to go down some rocky stuff as well. So for me, we went down Dolman Ridge, which is a grade 3 scramble. It's not to say every assessee ever goes down grade 3 stuff. They don't, but some do. That brings its own questions and things. It's quite tricky going down rope stuff, right? And on Dolman Ridge, there's quite a big lower. So how do you lower that efficiently and safely with 2 people on the end of your rope? How do you get down yourself? How do they make themselves safe down there when you can't actually see them? Do you know the route well? Can you see what's happening? Hey, it's tricky, isn't it? You get the idea. It's a tricky day. Like I say, you'll be knackered at the end of that one, but hopefully it went well and you picked loads of good anchors, no wobbly spikes or any nonsense like that. Remember, like when you're strong arming someone along, moving together, your assessor might test you at some point. So got to be on your toes the whole day. It's just concentration. Toughie, that one. Good fun, but tough. Alright, day 4. This for me is like the bread and butter kind of day for the MCI stuff. It's teaching leading to relative novices. It's bread and butter to me because that's the kind of work I wanted to do with it. If you're working up in Scotland, for example, this might be a little bit different. Because sometimes don't mean in terms of the MCI syllabus, it's the same wherever you are, but just in terms of actual work, a typical Scottish MCI might do more mountaineering and scrambling work, whereas down here in North Wales the focus is normally on the climbing side of stuff. Doesn't mean that both sets of people don't interchange in all sorts of different work, but just the focus might be a little bit different in general. And I really enjoyed this day. You get 2 people, mock clients, what they're called, but they're real people. They're not just your fellow assessees or anything. And you just got one assessor that day, so it's 1-to-1 assessor to you, plus your 2 clients, and you meet them at have a little morning meeting with your staff and that, and then maybe 9:15 you meet these people, and you've got to make a bit of a judgment then at where they are along this scale of novice to independent climber. Wherever they are, the aim of that day is to move them along it to some extent, but actually the aim is driven by them as well. So you've got to do some good questioning as to what they want to get out of the day, what they've done before, what kit they've got, all these kind of things. So you don't have long to make a decision as to where to go and what you want to achieve from the day. And hopefully your assessor, when you have a chat with them, I think most of them are kind of a little bit helpful, especially if you don't know the area so well. You'll end up knowing North Wales pretty well if this is where you want to do it, even if you don't live here. The same in Scotland, you work in that area and you get to know the area quite well. But hopefully your assessor will be a little bit sympathetic to bounce a couple of ideas off. And then you go there, and with the best will in the world, wherever you're going, you're probably not going to be there much before 10 o'clock. So you haven't got a lot of time left in the day when you think you've got to be back at the centre by whatever it is, 4:30 or something. So immediately your day is shrinking. You've got the walk-in to be done as well. Right? The walk-in and minibus time getting there, that's useful time though. It's more questioning time, isn't it? More getting to know your clients for the day. And then when you get to the crag, let's just say you've gone to Milestone Buttress, little lay-by at 10 o'clock, you've walked up 15-20 minutes, got to the bottom. Hopefully the route you wanted to start on is free. It might not be though, it's real life, isn't it? You don't get the crag booked out for you or anything like that. And then you crack on. You're going to go in parallel, you're going to go in series, what you're going to teach. Got to keep them safe, that's a given. That's like the easy bit of that day. But you've got to keep all your belays tangle free and everything. That's a theme for the whole week, all these kind of things. You've got to drop in maybe some environmental knowledge. Why is there no trees here, all this kind of stuff, and drop that in on that day. Actually, probably the day before the mountain day, there's loads of that environmental stuff as well. Well, I say loads, it's not loads, but there's bits and pieces, but you are expected to know in more detail than your average ML type person. Remember, you've already done your ML by this point, so you have a good general knowledge, just needs to be a bit higher as an MCI. So you're teaching them some stuff, you're staying tangle free, you're building textbook belays that are good teaching aids for you, you're progressing them onwards, not going here, there and everywhere in terms of teaching. We're building up step by step by step. Your assessor is out of the system for this day, so they'll just be sort of floating around looking after themselves. They'll pop up every now and then, have a chat to you, ask what you're doing, why you're doing it. They'll pop up every now and then and talk to your clients as well, but for the most part, they'll be sort of over there somewhere, and you kind of won't even really notice them if they're, playing the game and all that. Just want to let you get on with it. It's a really good day. It'll be over before you even flipping know it, right? Just be really careful at giving that good progressive day. The safety bit, like I say, should take care of itself. Don't flipping ignore it, it's flipping important, but that should be the easy bit of that day. And that'll be that day done, right? What we'll have done on that day, let's say you've gone to Milestone Buttress, probably 2 routes, something like that. But don't forget, it's not just climbing up, you've got to get down as well. So Milestone, it's an abseil or a lower, probably an abseil because that's more useful for teaching. So that's 2 abseils during the day, probably. With the MCI, you're not going to be told you've got to do X amount of pitches. You can have an idea of what you want to achieve, but it won't be like you've got to do 5 pitches or you can't pass, or you've got to do 10 pitches or you can't pass. You've got to do what's kind of appropriate in that situation. So that's part of being an MCI, is just the whole theme of the week is decisions and judgments and what's appropriate, right? But that day's done and you're nearly at the end. So day 5, final day, bit of navigation. Hopefully you've had a good week up to now. We don't want to throw it away on the last day, do we? All you've got to do on this day is probably like 3 legs per person. You're probably in a team of maybe up to 4 people to one assessor on that day. And you've already passed your ML, some time ago. And the points you'll be going to are, just imagine the hardest mountain leader legs, basically, the little re-entrance and stuff. And you've got to go to those, but you just got to be a bit quicker at it. I don't mean like legging it along at full pace, although it felt like we were on my assessment. I just mean like efficiently, so when you get told a point to go to, you just kind of crack on rather than having a bit of a faff like you might as an ML. You can't really do that at the MCI level. It's the same when you get to your target point, is you want to be like swiftly saying, yeah, we're here, rather than wandering around for 5 or 10 minutes and then going, yes, we're here, which is fine at an ML level. It's not okay at an MCI level. You probably get like those 3 legs, something like that, and for at least one of them you'll probably have to come up with what you teach on that leg, and you might do it or you might not do it, depends on the assessor and the leg and stuff, but having an idea of what it would work for if you were working, say, on an ML course, for example. You've got to relocate when the other people are doing their legs, so that's a case of when they get there, you've got to be, again, fairly swiftly going, yep, we're here, getting the answer right, obviously. And that's about it for that day. It's half a day, that one, okay? So you ticked off your legs, you got back to the minibus, and then the hardest bit of the week, waiting for the results, right? Hopefully there's a good answer coming your way that it's a pass, right? Pass with some feedback, I'm sure. The MCI is just a gateway to even more learning, right? You could defer, and maybe that means that you weren't good enough on 1 or 2 of the days, and you have to be reassessed on those things. Not the end of the world. You go away for your minimum of 3 months, you work on whatever those topics were, and you come back and you smash those out. You still get the same certificate, still get the same qualification. I always say on ML and RCI courses that it's super rare for people to fail, like really rare. At MCI, people do fail, okay? That means you've got to do the whole assessment again. It's not like super common, but it does happen, right? It just means you've been weak across the board, really, so you've got to come and do the whole assessment. You'd be gutted at it for sure, you would, but you can still smash it out, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger and all that kind of thing. But yeah, that's the 3 results, and like I say, it's the beginning then of the next part of your career, being able to do loads of cool work, and it really is. I think it's quite a big deal, this qualification. In some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. Quite a big step up from the RCI and ML. your knowledge levels are like exponentially bigger, right? They have to be, because the syllabus area and the remit of the qualification, the scope of the scheme are much bigger, right? And you'll just have so much more experience that kind of you will be viewed as like an expert in your field, right? I think that would be fair to say. It's just a gateway to even more stuff to be covered. So there's all sorts of CPD out there, from, you know, getting better at teaching leading indoors, to improving your knowledge of geology, to improving your knowledge of climbing walls and being a tech advisor and stuff like that. It's never ending, and it shouldn't ever end either, right? So MCI assessment week done. Hopefully it was a good result. Hopefully it opens up a lifetime of amazing work to be done. And yeah, I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. It really is just an awesome bit of work to be involved in, right? Please do fire away with any questions. I'm happy to answer stuff as best I can. I will undoubtedly have missed some bits out of that week, but that's the general theme for it. Remember, those days can change around, and within the days that can change as well. So I've said that on the scrambling day, you do, like, you know, you'll start off and do half the route, and then your fellow assessee will do the other half the route. Obviously that might change. You might do smaller sections, you might do bigger sections, who knows. But it gives you a rough idea, okay? It's a big week. You will get stressed, you will get tired, but you'll look back at it and think, flipping heck, that was awesome, and you'll feel like properly proud of that award as well. It takes some serious work to get to a point of passing that award, and like I say, you will be like considered an expert in your field once you've kind of got that ticket, right? Do ask those questions. I'm happy to answer as best I can for them all, right? Don't forget to click that like button, smash the subscribe button if that's something you're into. Find us on Insta, find us on Facebook. Thanks very much for watching. As always, it's massively appreciated. More videos coming up very soon.